They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today I wanted to give a bit of a sequel to a video I made last week on PJ Tucker, because I was, throwing out a couple of potential trade packages as the deadline is approaching, and he was sent home from the Rockets, and so, things were moving along pretty quickly now. And it has materialized. PJ Tucker is now a member of the Milwaukee Bucks, and so I wanted to just kind of go through, give my quick thoughts on the trade, some potential dominoes that could fall because of it, and yeah, let's just get into that. So here's the trade right from Woj here. He says, Houston is trading PJ Tucker, Rodions Kurucs, and the Bucks 2022 first-round pick back to Milwaukee for DJ Augustin, DJ Wilson, and a 2023 unprotected first-round pick. Houston also gets the right to swap its 2021 second-round pick for Milwaukee's first-round pick unless it falls 1 through 9. So, what's going on here? Well, the Bucks are getting PJ Tucker, of course. This is the main part of this deal. Rodions Kurucs, who the Rockets didn't care about. I doubt the Bucks care about him either, so that's just kind of there to do a player-for-player thing. And then they trade the Rockets already owned the Bucks first round pick in 2022, so they give it back instead, and the Bucks are giving them a 2023 first round pick. So essentially they're just pushing back a year. So the Rockets are saying, hey, we don't want this pick in 2022, we'd rather have it in 2023 from the Bucks, and so they just switched that around. And then the Rockets are getting back DJ Augustin, DJ Wilson, and a 2023 unprotected first, which is the result of that swap. And they're basically just getting these players that are there to match salary. And then as well as the Rockets getting the right to swap up from the top of the second round to the bottom of the first round, basically, is what's going on here. Because the Rockets are a bad team, their pick is probably going to be, within the top 5 of the second round, 32, 33, whichever one it is. And then the Bucks are probably going to be in the bottom of the first round because they're one of the better teams. They're going to have pick 27, 28, whatever it ends up being, right? So the Rockets going to move up a couple of slots from early second round to late first round. So there's that deal. It seems kind of complicated on the surface, and it actually is a pretty complicated deal. It's some pretty creative stuff from both teams to be able to get what they wanted out of this. So what does Tucker bring to Milwaukee? Well, he basically just slides right into the rotation. He has been regarded as basically a plug-and-play type of guy over the past couple of years, and I think that's very true for a guy like PJ Tucker. He is just able to just really get in the rotation. I don't think it'll take him very long to get acclimated to what the Bucks do, considering that his role on the Rockets for multiple years now has been on offense to just stand in the corner and shoot threes, and on defense, the Rockets kind of had him do that small ball thing where they would run small with no center on the court and have him guard the opposing big man, which was tough on him at points last season, right? We know kind of how that worked out. And that's just basically been his role. Sometimes he will play the power forward and not guard the center, but guard the power forward on the other team. His role in defense is kind of fluid, and we'll have to see what the Bucks decide to do with him there, considering that this is a team with Brook Lopez and Giannis, both of whom are probably better defensive centers, better equipped to be able to guard the other team's tallest player. So I doubt that'll be his role defensively for them. I think he'll probably be more of a wing stopper, which he's also been capable of doing. And then on offense, it's just stand in the corner and shoot threes, and he's been one of the best, corner three-point shooters in the league. Obviously, this season, his numbers have kind of dipped, and that's likely due to him not really caring about what the Rockets are doing, because he knows that he was going to be traded at some point this year. Rockets are clearly rebuilding, so he was not checked in at all for the first half of the season, understandably. So I think, we'll see his numbers come back up to about where they were last season, probably, when he gets to Milwaukee and gets playing here. And I think it'll just work out. I mean, pretty much any team he could just plug and play wherever he ended up getting traded to, and the Bucks are no different. I think their offense, the way that their offense runs is sort of similar actually to what Mike D'Antoni had the Rockets doing, with the pace and space stuff and jacking up as many threes as you can. And obviously Giannis adds a different dimension to that. But so it's not going to be a very hard transition for him. And I think for both sides, for Tucker and for the Bucks, I think this is going to work out just fine. So just to talk about some of the other players that are involved in this deal, Rodions Kurucs is a guy who the Bucks don't care about him. The Rockets didn't care about him. I could see maybe a team who's looking to get a little younger and, get in whatever young talent is out there, see what they can do, maybe taking a chance. But realistically, he's been given up on now by Brooklyn and now by Houston as well. He hadn't really had much of a chance to play at all this year for either of the teams that he's been on. So hopefully for him, he gets a shot somewhere. I don't think it's going to be with the Bucks. So I would not be surprised to see him cut or moved again relatively soon. DJ Wilson and DJ Augustin going back to Houston. This is interesting to me because DJ Wilson, first of all, is a younger player. He's in his 4th NBA season, and he's on the expiring year of his rookie deal. So he was a guy who has had quite a bit of potential. We've seen a couple of flashes from him. Hasn't played much with Milwaukee, considering they've been, contending for the past couple of seasons, and he hasn't really had a role with them. So he's expiring, and we'll see if the Rockets want to bring him back. If not, he could be another guy who could maybe get flipped again in the next week or so before the deadline happens. But he's an interesting piece because I do think he can play, and I think he can find a role somewhere. Not sure if that's going to be with the Rockets. And DJ Augustin is another interesting one because if you remember, he signed a 3-year deal with the Bucks in the offseason for their mid-level. It's for about $7 or $8 million a year. And he was thrown in here to match the salary for Tucker. But he's on this contract now. He's locked in for 3 more years at that number. And I don't think the Rockets want him. Like I said, he was just thrown in to match the salary. The Rockets probably don't care about him. They just wanted the salary slot. And considering, he's signed for a couple of years and the Rockets are clearly in a rebuild direction, they have no use for a veteran like DJ Augustin. I think he could very, very well be moved again in the next week. I don't think Houston is going to be his landing spot, maybe for the rest of the season, and then we'll see him traded again in the offseason. But he's a guy who might be a little overpaid, probably a little bit over the hill. But I still think he can help a contender, and that's why the Bucks brought him in. And so any team in need of backup point guard play could really take a look at DJ Augustin. I don't think it would take much to get him. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But that is a very interesting wrinkle of this trade for me that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about because, you might think that he's sort of an afterthought type of player. But I do think there might be some interested teams if the Rockets made him available, and I definitely think he's going to be available. So also Torrey Craig was in this deal to Phoenix. I guess that was technically a separate trade probably. We have no details on what Phoenix is giving back for him. I don't, they can't just give back nothing. I think that's a rule somewhere where you have to give back something in a trade. You can't just take a player and give nothing back, even if, the Bucks just wanted to get rid of him. So maybe it's like a late 2nd round pick, or I think they could probably just do cash considerations and just say, here's, $2 million and we can have, take Torrey Craig or whatever. Potentially that could be something, but I think he can play for Phoenix. He's a guy who was in Denver's rotation last year. The Bucks had no use for him anymore, especially bringing in another guy at his position. And he wasn't really in the rotation anyway. But I think that's a pretty underrated pickup for Phoenix. Getting him in there and he can round out the rest of the rotation. I don't think he'll play every night, but he's a guy who can come in and do spot minutes for you. And I like that pickup for the Suns. So that's another little random tidbit from this. And then I guess we can talk about Tucker's future with Milwaukee. This is interesting because he's a guy who wanted an extension from the Rockets in the offseason, didn't end up getting it. This report from Woj here is pretty interesting to me. It says that the Rockets thought they were close to signing him to a 2-year extension for $17 million with $10 million guaranteed, but the Houston front office balked after Tucker's camp countered with a proposal for a fully guaranteed 2-year deal worth $24 million. Is he worth that at this point in his career? Probably not. But that's, what he thought he was worth and what his representation thought he was worth. And so that's what they had negotiated with Houston, and they decided not to take that deal. So that was, one of the reasons why he ended up getting traded. And those negotiations were probably before the whole James Harden thing. And so the Rockets kind of thought they were still going to be competing. But, that ended up changing after James Harden requested it out and all that. We know the story, right? So he goes to Milwaukee now, and he probably still wants an extension. I was actually a little surprised that there was not an extension reported as part of this deal, because sometimes that happens where a player will get traded and then immediately sign an extension, because of the trade that was kind of worked out as part of it. So maybe they're just waiting on this until the offseason, or maybe they don't want to bring him back. Who knows? But I find it hard to believe that Milwaukee would just bring him in just for the second half of the season. considering that he has been considered so valuable to a ton of different teams. Obviously, he's going to be, important and valuable to them for however long, this stretch run and then plus the playoffs. But I would anticipate they probably want to bring him back. Now, he is getting older, 35 years old, and there were signs of decline this year, even though, like I said, I think it was more due to an effort thing rather than him just being worse as a player. But he is 35. Who knows how many more productive years he's got left. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Potentially, that 2-year deal for $24 million seems like a lot on the surface. But if the Bucks are desperate to keep him around, I think they'd, probably consider doing that. But we'll just have to see how things shake out. I think Milwaukee probably had some reassurance that he would, be open to re-signing with them. Depending on what the bill is like for that, we'll just have to see. And then as far as what Houston got back, I think they got pretty solid value. Really the value here comes from being able to move up a couple of spots from, or like I said, early second to late first round, wherever those picks end up landing. They get to, I think they wanted to push back the pick that they had from the Bucks a year, so they get to do that. And they're getting DJ Wilson, who might be something for them, who knows. And yeah, that's pretty much where their value comes from. I'm a little surprised they didn't just get like an outright, lottery protected first round pick from somebody. But effectively they did that, right? Getting that Bucks first round pick. But it's not like an outright first round pick because they're giving up their second to move up for it. So, yeah, it's pretty good value. I'm not upset if I'm a Rockets fan. I think this is fair. Especially for a guy who's 35 on an expiring contract. But like I said, I'm very interested in seeing what the DJ Augustin situation ends up being, because I think he could get traded again, and that could add maybe a little bit more value to this package here. But as of right now, I think it's pretty solid. And yeah, that's about all I have on the PJ Tucker trade to Milwaukee. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about this, what do you think about the move, and who do you think won the trade? Would love to hear your thoughts down below. But with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.